Okay, we're going to do, this is the notes we did on week 11, I think it was day 4, and this is the introduction to if structure, the first notes or lecture on chapter 5. And so we're going to go through this at this time. So here we go. We are going to get that going. Alright, so we're going to do pages 1 through 3. So here we are. Sequence structure versus decision structure. So this, you should have your notes out in front of you and be taking notes as we go along. We have a sequence structure, which is what we've been doing, and we have a decision structure, which we are now going to begin doing in our programming. Well, what does that mean? So sequence structure is when your steps of completing a program or solving a problem is just very sequential. It's just one step after the other, and there's really no decisions to make. So if you were trying to go to a particular location and you wrote out the directions to get there, in this case, go west on this one, turn left here, go to the expressway, go to this road, etc. There's no decisions to make. You just go from one to the next. We're going to program, though, something that's going to be different. What we're going to do, let's say we're going on the same path here. We go west on the same road and then turn left on the same road as we did over here. But then we come to the expressway. Well, maybe the expressway might provide a situation where we have to make a decision. Do we want to go on the expressway or not? And so if it's backed up, then we go on this line of directions, and if it's not backed up, we go ahead and enter the expressway and go and do these things. So this is where we're going to program the computer, be able to tell the computer and show and instruct the computer to make a decision based on certain criteria. And so as we continue on page 1, all computer decisions are based on whether something is true or false. So the computer is going to decide on if something is going to evaluate if something is true or false, and it's going to make a decision based on that, and that's what you're going to program it to do. This true or false, these are called Boolean values. They're called Boolean values. So you have, well, let's go on. Boolean is actually a data type for variables. So we know that we have int data types that store only integers, and then you have string data types that store words and letters and symbols and spaces and different things like that, and we have doubles that store decimals. Well, we have Boolean data types that only store certain things. Well, they only store two things. There's only two possible Boolean values out there. It's true with a lowercase t and f with a lowercase f. So that's all the possibilities there are. Now decisions are going to be based on the value of a Boolean or a logic expression. So we'll use the term logic maybe. Most of the time I'm going to use the term Boolean expression. And we'll see what those are in just a second. So, so decisions will be made based on the value of a Boolean expression. So well, what do Boolean expressions use? If I asked you, well, how does 5 relate to 7? And you would probably say, well, 5 is less than 7. And that would be true. That is a Boolean expression because it says how this 5 relates to 7, and it's called a relational operator. So you have relate or relational operator. Or I might say, well, how does 7 compare to 9? So compare, well, you'd say, well, it's 7's less than 9. Okay, well, there's a Boolean expression. And so we call them comparison operators also. So you can compare and you can relate. So these two mean the same thing. They're used interchangeably. So these operators are either they're relational We also call them comparison operators. What are they? Well, greater than, of course, is what we're used to, and then but greater than and equal is what we're not used to. Greater than and equal to, we're used to with the greater than symbol with a underscore underneath it, but we don't have that button or that key on the keyboard, and so we have to put two symbols together, the greater than symbol and the equal sign, to make it greater than or equal to. You also have the less than, or the less than or equal to there, and then you have the equal to. Well, equal to is not the equal sign, it's two equal signs. Why is it not just the equal sign? Some people would say it's because the equal sign is already used as an assignment operator, and it's not a relational or comparison operator. So the double equal sign is a relational or comparison operator. Then not equal to has an exclamation mark, which means not. So exclamation mark means not, and so not equal to is that. Okay, now if you have JGrasp available to you at this point, then what I need you to do is go to Canvas and copy what's called Boolean expression starter vid, and that's on day 4 of week 11, and copy that into JGrasp. And then while you're there, there's also one that says if structure demo starter vid. Go ahead and open that up and copy and paste that into JGrasp, and then save them in your chapter 5 folder if you're at, well, I guess you probably wouldn't be at school, so just make sure you save it, you know where you're saving it. So what you can do is pause the video and do that at this time, and then come back. So we're going to have Boolean expression starter vid. Hope you have this open. If you don't, by the way, if you don't have this available, you just watch and you'll be fine. And so what we need you to do is to type, we're going to do some things here that would kind of review that we want to keep using, things that we've already learned, but we want to make sure that we keep in touch with them. So do you know how to declare a scanner object? So if you know, go ahead and type it in. If you don't, just follow me. Some of the girls actually know this by heart. Scanner scan equals new scanner system dot in. So that is declaring the scanner that reads the input of the user, and its name is scan. You could name it input or whatever. We're naming ours scan. The next thing I need you to do is declare a variable named num1 that stores 10 and assign it to be 10. So go ahead and do that, and then check to see if you did it right. And that's what it should look like. And then declare a variable called num2 that's going to store ints. So these are things I'm hoping you are doing on your own, and then checking to see if it's the same as what I have, because these are things that you have to know how to do. Notice line 10 is prompting the user, asking them for input. And so what I need you to do now is type a line of code that will read the user's input and store it in num2. So go ahead and do that. Alright. And so you can see what I've done here. So this line will read it using the scan.nextInt. That reads it, and then num2 is where it gets stored. Alright, so the next thing that we have here is that we said that Boolean is a data type. Well, here's 4 variables that we've declared and assigned, but we want to do the declaration, and we want to add the data type. The data type is Boolean. This is how you say it, Boolean, and so it's not capitalized. If you do it correctly, if you're in JGrasp, it will actually turn a different color. And so here are, so make sure you get all four of these variables to have the data type Boolean. Okay, now if you'll notice up here, I have written or typed in some memory locations. So let's pretend that this is a num1 memory location, this is the num2 memory location, and this is the equal to memory location, which is this variable right here that we've declared to be a Boolean. And so let's pretend that at this line, let's say the user types in 15, and so the scanner object reads the 15 and then stores it in this variable, and so this should say 15 now. So the question here, okay, so here what we're trying to do is see if num2, now we're going to call num2, which is 15, and so actually what I could probably do here is go like this, and then it's going to call num1, and it's 10, and equal to, remember that relational operator is going to be equals equals. So you want to type equals equals in there, and that will finish this declaration of the Boolean variable equal to. So the this variable expression, or this variable, is being assigned a Boolean expression which says num2 is equal to num1. Now remember, Boolean expressions are always evaluated to be true or false. So the question is, what is going to be stored? We're assigning something, so what is going to be stored in equal to? Some people might say num2 equal double equal sign num1. Some people might say 15. It might store 15 equal to 10. Neither one of those is going to store whether this expression is true or false. So 15 is not equal to 10, so it's actually going to store the word false. And notice how it changes color, because it's a special word, it's not capitalized. So it's going to store the value of this expression. The value of this expression is false. Now if this relates to something else we've already done. If we had int sum is assigned some calculation, let's say 15 plus 10, if we made that to be, or num, I guess we could say num2 plus num1, but if we did that and we had a memory location called sum, well, we wouldn't say the memory location is going to store 15 plus 10. We would say that no, it stores the result of that, which is 25. So that's the same thing here. It's just that the result of this is different because it's evaluating whether that expression is true or false. So that's the only two possible values for a Boolean variable, which you've already said. All right, so now we need to move on to here. Now we have some print statements that are going to print this line. So this line here, num2, it calls num2, and num2 has a 15 in it. And then it calls num1, which is a 10. And so we calls variable the variable equal to, which is storing the false value. Okay, so this will say then 15 equal to 10 with a question mark and a space, false. So what you can do, if you have JGrasp, go ahead and run this program, trying different numbers, like a number that is greater than 10, less than 10, and a number that's the same as 10. And so if you don't have JGrasp, I'll do that here. And I got to check what my errors are. Okay, I realized I forgot to have you add these. So you should write these in. If you're using JGrasp right now, greater than would be just the greater than symbol would go in this expression. Here it's greater than or equal to, so you would have that. And then this one is not equal to is going to say exclamation mark and an equal sign. I forgot to have you do that. So at that point, then you compile, and then we try different things. So if we do try the 15, notice that false is the value of equal to. Greater than variable has the value true, and then true is the greater or equal to, and then true is the not equal to variable. And then if we were to try entering a number that's less than 10, then we would see then how these change. So you have false, those are the same, but this one true and this is false. So it makes the right decision here, and based on true or false. Okay, then if we try running it one more time with it being equal, and you can see the equal to is true and everything else, or this is false, and here you have a greater than or equal to, so that makes that true. Anyway, so that's how it works. I'm just showing you how Boolean expressions, Boolean values store true or false, and that's all they store. So let's go ahead and stop with that for just a second. Okay, now let's go back to our notes, and at the top of page 2. And at the top of page 2, you have a question. It says to write down the Boolean expressions. And the program we just did, the Boolean expressions, are on the right side, as it says in your notes, the right side of the assignment operators of the Boolean variables. So if you go down to Boolean equal to equals num2 equals num1, num2 equals num1 is a Boolean expression. So write in, you can pause the video if you'd like and write in what you think are the Boolean expressions, and then come back and check. So the first one is num2 equals num1. The next one is num2 is greater than num1. And then you have this is the next one, and then this one's the next one. So those are all Boolean expressions because they're using relational operators, or comparison operators right here. So then we move on and we go, okay, well, Boolean variables don't store Boolean what? Well, they don't store Boolean expressions. The expressions are not what's being stored. But what's being stored is the values. Well, there's only two values that can be a Boolean, that would be true or false, and so they are a result of evaluating whether the expressions are true or false. So they only store true or false. Alright, so the next thing, this is what we just did. And there's one thing I want to make sure that you understand. Can you underline all the variable calls? And so if you did this, we should underline all these variable calls, are what I'm doing right here. We got to know what these mean. So all these places I'm underlining, and you should do the same, are where the variable is being called and asked for the value of it. And then you see here, this is 1. And it's calling for its value, and its value is false, or it could be true. So these are all variable calls right here. And we want to make sure what variable calls are. So I noticed that in our last test and stuff that people are having, some are having a difficult time with that still. Alright, so make sure you know what a variable call is. Okay, what we're going to do now is start with the if, dealing with if structure and how Boolean expressions relate to that, but that's going to be on the next video. So we're going to stop here, and then you'll have to pull up the next video to continue on in the notes.